Today's episode of the BS Podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. That's our presenting sponsor. That's the only fan-friendly app for buying and selling tickets for sports and music. The Washington Post recently wrote that with SeatGeek, quote, "You're sure to find excellent deals. Its app is fantastic." I agree. With the NBA, NHL, and college basketball heating up, you need tickets for all of those sports. Why not do absolutely everything on your phone? Download the free SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com. We are also brought to you by Roast Battle 2. The people have spoken. It is back. The four-night event features top comedians getting verbally violent until just one is left standing. Features a star-studded lineup of judges, including Snoop Dogg, Sarah Silverman, Jason Sudeikis, and the roast master, Jeffrey Ross. It's a battle you do not want to miss. The four-night event begins January 26th, 9 Central on Comedy Central. And don't miss the live finale on Sunday, January 29th, also at 10, to see who gets crowned the king or queen of cruelty. And we are brought to you by TheRinger.com. That's where I wrote not one, but 2 columns last week. I had a piece about the NBA All-Star Game, starters ballot, and another NFL playoffs mailbag. Go there and read the words that I wrote and read our pieces about the NBA's midseason awards, Oscar nomination predictions, the Women's March, and Super Bowl 52. And I had 3 podcasts last week. The one on Friday with Seth Meyers and Mike Shore was a good one. And we put it up on Friday afternoon. It was a 3-man. It was good. It was a little different. I think people will like it. And if you missed that one, go back and listen to it. Coming up, Cousin Sal, Wesley Morris. Let's roll. All right, on the line right now, as he is every Monday. Sometimes he's in the office, sometimes he's on the line. But I know he's excited. Cowboys, Patriots, Super Bowl. It's finally happening. Super Bowl 52. Our teams are going. Oh, no, they're not. They're not. Are you sick because you have a fever?
Not only did you got the teams wrong, you got the Super Bowl number wrong. So it was almost a good joke. It was almost a good joke.
Thank you.
Son of a bitch. You did it again, you son of a bitch. You guys got back.
I know.
How did you do it?
Are you sick because you have a fever or because you watched the Packers-Falcons game yesterday and just thought the whole game about how your team would have made that a very close game and you really blew it a week ago?
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I had to smack myself in the face and let go of that sometime around the third quarter. But it makes you sick. But the one thing that's better is I was in a room full of Giants fans, so they must really feel sick because they're awful by comparison, right?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to say whether the Packers just kind of stumbled in there and shouldn't have, or whether they ran out of gas because they were so banged up and they reached the point of no return. We both thought Atlanta was just better and faster and, at home, indoors, bad matchup. But you could tell from the first drive, like, not only were they faster, but they had guys open every play. They could run for 7 to 10 yards it seemed like in the beginning every play. And Green Bay was either going to get killed with running or passing. And I don't know, when did you lock out of that game? End of the first quarter?
I locked out, and to further your point, Matt Ryan was in a rare situation where he was quarterback of the better team. He's staring an MVP award in the face. And all the talk is about Aaron Rodgers, and he's home and favored, and it was somehow perceived as the underdog. I thought, more people you talk to. So and then they just went there and took care of business. They're just too fast, and they beat you any way you want. And from that empty set backfield, he's just lights out, Matt Ryan. And they were just better. And we could pick for both of these games. I think we could pick one play that was the turning point, but they were blowouts. They beat the second-best team. Both home teams beat the second-best team handily, so you can't really say anything about that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. There were plays in each. The Brady fumble, which I still feel like might have been a fumble, and then the Packers with the missed field goal, and then the big white guy fumbling inside the 10-yard line. But I still feel like the Falcons were going to put up 50 points in that game if they had to. They're going to get to that number. And I think my team would have put up over 40. I think we had 26 first downs, and we had 7 plays of 20-plus yards or more. And that was really in 3 quarters, because in the fourth quarter they were, cruise control trying to just end the game. But I thought That was Brady's best playoff game he's ever played that I've seen.
Oh, really? You think so? Huh?
Yeah, I really do. I think he's had chunks of games like that in the playoffs, and he's done it against lesser teams, but, he made Pittsburgh just look like a cream puff, and they aren't. Their defense is pretty good. They're physical. They hit him a few times. He made every right play. The Chris Hogan thing they just took advantage of, to make it look that easy without Gronk. And that's why, the Steelers fans would be like, oh, Le'Veon Bell, we didn't have. It's like we didn't have Gronk for the last 2 months. Like you got, you got to adjust if you don't have your best offensive weapon. I was surprised the Steelers couldn't really adjust on the fly because D'Angelo Williams is a good running back. It seemed like that took the piss out of him. But these are by far the two best offenses, and to me, it's the Super Bowl matchup that makes sense. Don't you agree?
I agree, and I know I'm going to take a lot of shit. I get tweets and everything for kissing. Oh, you're kissing Bill's ass, and it was like, well, you know what? I'm sorry. That's what's going to have to happen. They're in the Super Bowl again. Their quarterback was suspended the first 4 weeks. They deserve all the credit in the world. I apologize, but they couldn't adjust, and it was a weird game because none of the 4 main running backs did anything in the game. But but I thought, didn't you think someone else was going to have to be a factor other than Brady? Like I thought Lewis for sure was going to have to be a factor, and Blunt didn't even get going until like the fourth quarter. So it was strange for me, and no one completes more catches where the receiver is backpedaling, staring at the ball, backpedaling 12 yards than Tom Brady. I just don't. If you don't hit him early, and same goes for Matt Ryan, I think if you don't hit him early, it's going to be trouble, and that's what happened.
Yeah, I was optimistic going into the playoffs, and we talked about it. I sound like Phil Simms right there. We talked about Sal. We talked on this podcast about there wasn't an AFC team that I felt like could really pressure Brady, and it's really not that hard to figure out after 16 years of watching it. When he has time, he's pretty much unstoppable. And when you just throw a zone at him like Pittsburgh did, and you're not going to rush him, I feel like that's a suicide mission. I don't understand that game plan at all. We have 16 years of evidence that you shouldn't do that, and that there's a specific way to beat the Patriots and Brady. And they just did the opposite of it. I thought it was a really weird game plan. I thought they were sloppy. I don't think they should have been that thrown off by the Bell injury. The Packers thing, you look at the Packers and it was almost a miracle that they got to the Final Four with how banged up they were.
Right. The
Steelers were a good team, and I'm not scared of Roethlisberger when the Pats play them. Like I feel like he's good, but their throws he misses. Like I never feel like he's not one of those guys that all of a sudden he goes on this giant run where he's just carrying them for a quarter. They're not that good in the red zone. I don't know. I thought he hurt them in that game, as weird as that sounds. It's not like statistically he had that bad of a game, but I just felt like he wasn't that good. What did you think?
And if you take a look at his playoff numbers in general, they're underwhelming. They really are. Yeah. You'll be surprised by them. But in both of these games, here's the two things you can't do. You can't rush 3 against either of these 4 quarterbacks. You can't do it. And even the Patriots got bit a little bit when they rushed 3 against Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Eventually he was going to find Eli Rogers, and he did. And then they mixed it up again. You can't rush 3 if you're, Green Bay, Atlanta, any of these teams against the 4 quarterbacks that played. And you have to, if you're playing Atlanta or New England, you have to turn the 3s into 7s. And that was huge before the half. What was the score? Was it 17-6? Pittsburgh's driving. Now, as a Patriots fan, Jesse James, they called a touchdown at first. Then he's down at the, 1 foot line.
Yeah.
As a Patriots fan, you're probably hoping they called that a touchdown, right? Because you want to save as much time and timeouts as you can
100%.
for the Brady drive to get the field goal back the other way. And for them to not punch it in 3 plays and have to kick a field goal, like I said, I don't want to say one play or one series swayed the game because these were blowouts, but that was huge for Tomlin and the Steelers to not convert there.
Yeah, that and not getting the Brady fumble. But if you can't score from the 1 foot line in the AFC Championship game, when you have a little bit of momentum, like that's pretty bad.
Why are the Patriots the only team with a successful quarterback sneak in the league? I don't understand. Roethlisberger is like 325 pounds. How come he can't stick his head in the football? I don't understand it.
I was sitting there going, please throw the fade route. Please. Just do it.
Right.
Please throw it because we're going to shut that down. The Pats are good. They're defensively they do this bend but don't break thing where they're fine with you getting whatever you want between the 20s, but in the red zone they kind of turn it up. And the problem with this Falcons game is I'm not sure that's going to work because the Falcons have they're really good in the red zone. So, as cliched as this sounds, I feel like it's going to be a whoever outscores who game. And I don't know if defense is going to be that much of a factor in this game. And, I don't know if you can make what's the over-under? What did they say it was?
I think it's 60, 59.5 or 60. It's the highest in Super Bowl history.
Yeah, that seems fair. We had a couple of bets yesterday. We parlayed the Falcons and the Pats, which won. Congratulations to us.
Yeah.
And then we did a Falcons with the tease of the over. We teased it down to 55, so they had to score 56 points. And at one point late in the first half, it was 17-0. And it was like, wow, this is say goodbye to that bet. And then they got the end of the first half touchdown, which, by the way, at some point these teams are going to start tackling the receivers at the end of the half, right, on that play? When you have one,
yeah, I think so.
You have one chance left to throw an 8-yard touchdown or whatever, 3-yard touchdown, whatever it was. Just commit pass interference. Why not? Especially like if
exactly.
Julio's on the right side by himself, obviously they're going to throw it to him. Just tackle him. But so it's 24-0 at halftime, and now we're relying on some Rodgers garbage time.
Well, the books are getting crushed on these. They can't make these overs high enough. I mean, yeah, you're right. It was like 7-0 late in the first quarter, and you're like, oh, this is going under. This is very strange what's happening. But yeah, they're tired of getting destroyed on these over-unders, so they have to make it like 60 or so.
Can't we say that Vegas got probably murdered in this playoff so far? I would say they did.
Oh, yeah. I think the viewers got murdered, too. I mean, there were two good games. If you want to count Pittsburgh, Kansas City as a good game, I thought it was boring.
Not counting
But, of course, my team had to play the most dramatic game against Green Bay and lose. But otherwise, yeah, they were like what was decided by an average of 14 points. The both conference championships decided by at least 19 points hadn't happened since 1978.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We had 8 double-digit out of the 10 playoff spreads. And then the Cowboys-Packers was one of the best playoff games of this decade, I think. The Giants-Packers had the end of the half Hail Mary, which was great. And then other than that, crap. First round was crap, other than the Hail Mary. Second round, other than Cowboys-Packers. And this one, I was watching going, we're screwed. And I picked in my column, I picked the Steelers +6 just because I thought they could keep it close and maybe get a garbage TD. I thought the Pats were going to win, but usually you have the blowout first, then that means the second one's close. And that wasn't close either. And then all of a sudden we're in the Super Bowl. It's weird. I would say it's a very, very, very disappointing postseason.
I looked around to who I was watching with, people I was watching with, and I said, because Atlanta had run away with it, I said, this second game doesn't have to be close because the first one was a blowout. Just remember that.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like that. And
but somehow it always seems like that's how it plays out, and I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure statistically it doesn't play out that way.
Well, the one thing Vegas had, I'm sure there was a lot of Green Bay money line, Pittsburgh money line, Pittsburgh teaser. Both overs hitting was not good for Vegas. Green Bay and Pittsburgh in the second half were losers.
Yeah.
Green Bay was -4.5. What were they? Was it 24-0 at half?
Yeah.
You would think -4.5 for Green Bay is good in the second half. Pittsburgh was like -0.5 point in the second half, and they just got brutalized. It wasn't like 16-0 in the third quarter for New England. So those are big Vegas winners there. But overall, you're right.
We screwed up twice this year. We had the Pats in the AFC East before the year that we teamed up with Hillary Clinton. That became a loser.
I don't know yet. I don't know about that yet.
Are you thinking it overturned? Okay. We were talking about the Falcons for all of December, about them as a Super Bowl bet, and if they get the 2 seed, they'd have 2 games at home. Why not? I remember they were 10-1 for a good chunk there, and then all of a sudden it seemed like a lot of people realized the same things we were talking about, and it dipped way, way down. But we should just remember that going forward. You have the 2 seed at home. They're really good. All you need is something funky to happen with the 1 seed in round 2, and all of a sudden the Falcons just have 2 home games, and now they're in the Super Bowl, playing in a dome indoors. Like this played out perfectly for them, and it reminds me of the Saints that year when I don't know if the Saints were the best team the year they won the Super Bowl, but they played 3 playoff games indoors, and it worked out for them. And
right,
you
right.
know,
and New England before the divisional round, New England Atlanta Super Bowl matchup was 4-1. That's high even for them because you figured,
right.
I mean, New England was going to beat Houston, and we loved Atlanta to beat Seattle. So if you could just get to yesterday with 4-1 odds, that was pretty sweet. But yeah, no, we didn't jump on that enough.
So the Patriots right now are 15-3 against the spread this season.
Incredible.
I don't remember that before. I'm interested. Like, if anyone out there who is a nerd who loves this stuff can remember a team being better than 15-3 against the spread going in the Super Bowl, if that's information is online, email it to us, because I just find it hard to believe anybody beat that. You'd have to be 16-2 against the spread to beat that. That seems impossible, right?
I don't think anyone beat that. I think that Bears team was, I don't know, I remember reading, I think it was 14-4 or something before the Super Bowl or something.
The 85 Bears?
Yeah, because everyone they play would end up with 3 or 6 points or 7, nothing big, and they wouldn't even have to score that much to win. But 15-3 is that's what they should do. They should do the champagne toast if anyone ever beats 15-3 against the spread, like the undefeated Dolphins do.
Let me ask you some questions. So if the Pats win this Super Bowl, you're objective, you don't care. Is Brady with 5 Super Bowls, is that now unassailable? He is the best quarterback ever.
Yeah, I guess. See, here's where I get into trouble. I should really put up a good fight against you and everything and bring up players that neither of us ever saw. But, yeah, why not? How much do you have to see? How much does anyone have to see from this guy?
11 conference championships, 7 Super Bowls, and has a chance to win 5. And he's 39 years old and doesn't seem to be getting worse, which is insane. How about that part? There's no signs of deterioration, really.
If they signed him to a 4-year deal tomorrow, it wouldn't be a favor. It wouldn't be like one of those, Emmitt Smith favor deal. He'll last the 4 years, most likely.
Well, I think there was one tiny little subplot that nobody wanted to talk about is if he looked old in these playoffs, then maybe Garoppolo. Well, do we really want to trade him? Does that make sense? Like,
right.
There's signs that this Brady era might be ending, and the way Brady's rolling right now, I think it's a mortal lock that Garoppolo gets traded, and you're looking at Garoppolo and Romo on the market. Those are potentially, I wouldn't say top 5 quarterbacks, but maybe in that they could climb into that next tier next year. And you watch these quarterbacks that are in the playoffs, like if Kansas City had Romo or Garoppolo, could they have beaten Pittsburgh? If Garoppolo does what we think, like Lombardi thinks Garoppolo's better than Alex Smith, like just point blank. But I don't remember having 2 available QBs in the trade market that could actually swing a playoff team.
It could actually be Kirk Cousins too, if you want to, unless they fool with this franchise thing again. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I counted 18. I took a lot of shit for saying that Romo might get a 2, or you can get a 2 for Romo. But I think there's about 8 teams. There is some leverage there. 8 teams that would use quarterbacks, right?
When you say you took shit,
Arizona,
you're saying you took shit from anonymous people on Twitter, or did you take shit you're going to get? You're at dinner and the waiter's giving you shit? Like, what kind of shit?
There was the waiter. I had Jim Brown himself called me and said, what are you, crazy?
You're nuts.
I had, Kellyanne Conway. It was weird. Everyone was weighing in on it. But, but I don't know. I think there is a big market. I think you could get a second rounder for a Romo, and I'm sticking by it.
I think
It's gonna be interesting to
Garoppolo,
see how it shakes out.
Garoppolo, I think has to go for a first. When you watch how important quarterback play is, and you look at the market of what some of these other guys get, and it's just going to be a question of how Goodell figures out how to come up with some fake reason to make us lose that first round pick. I'm sure he's working on it.
So the Browns were the big winner in the Steelers in the blowout yesterday, you're saying, right?
Well, if you're the Browns, do you trade the 12th pick for Garoppolo, or do you roll the dice with some quarterback that's not quite good enough to be a top 3 franchise guy, and now you're taking a guy who's in that Blake Bortles range of, Mays and I were texting about this a couple weeks ago. Like that range, when you go from like pick 8 to pick 17 in the first round with quarterbacks, it is not good. Like you go back, it's like, oh, there's a lot of Blaine Gabbert. There's a lot of Blaine Gabbert type of picks in that range. And if you're Cleveland, you're like, all right, there's a quarterback. We already have the number 1 pick in the draft. Here's number 12. Here you go. I don't know.
Well, I agree with you. I think Cleveland, and that's what I'm saying. Yesterday's game was big. The Patriots might have said, and they should have before yesterday, said, well, Brady's good for another 3 years. We can part with Garoppolo. And the Browns, on the other hand, yes, they have to get the fans excited about something. Sign somebody who has actually played well in an NFL game. That's a number 1. Why not? Bring Garoppolo in. But here's the interesting thing. Will we learn lessons from last year's draft? Will we ever see a Sam Bradford type get a first pick? Well, it was a first and a third, right? They got for Bradford.
Yeah, that was a panic kind of. Bridgewater had gone down. They felt like they had a Super Bowl team, and they overpaid for Bradford, in my opinion.
And it seems like they'd still go with Bradford over Bridgewater, but who knows? That remains to be seen. But the other thing is, are you totally right about the quarterbacks in the 8 to 17 range? Now, looks like Trubisky's going to be the only first rounder, but maybe Dak Prescott screwed that up a little bit. Maybe teams want to roll the dice a little more.
Or maybe Connor Cook didn't screw it up. It made people go, "Wow, Dak was like kind of a unicorn with that whole thing." But if Kansas City gets one, like if Kansas City just looks at it and says, this is stupid. We're going to run back Alex Smith and Andy Reid again. We're not winning the Super Bowl with that combination. We need a better quarterback. Right. And they trade for Romo. And I really think Kansas City is the most logical Romo team. If you really think about it, like they are the closest offense, defense, everything to winning a Super Bowl, and they need a better quarterback than Alex Smith. So let's say they trade for him. Let's say the Browns trade for Garoppolo. Now you have Alex Smith out there available too. And maybe he goes back to San Francisco, but I think there's going to be a lot of quarterback movement.
He should go back to San Francisco. That's a fun punishment for Alex Smith.
I'm back, guys.
But for those of you who want one more offering of praise towards Tom Brady here.
Thank you.
For those of you who are unsure if you're watching the best, consider that you're not watching a game that you're used to when he's playing. Consider the guys. Don't read into it too much, but with the Edelmans and the Chris Hogans, and maybe they're not your typical kind of receivers that Brady is making not good, but great on a Sunday. He is like these guys, they play for Monmouth, and like I said, they just run precise routes, and he rewards them for it. And I don't know if you'll ever see anything like it.
Well, Chris Hogan was basically let go by Buffalo.
Sure.
They were like, we don't know what to do with this guy. I mean, we've all seen Buffalo's receivers. That's a pretty big leap of faith. I think getting to the Super Bowl without Gronkowski pretty easily is way, way up there. You think about like, if you just took Julio Jones off the Falcons, just take him off in October. What kind of team is left, And it's basically the situation the Patriots are in. Edelman, I wouldn't say he's a top 5 wide receiver, but I think he's on that next level, right? You wouldn't put him with Dez and Julio and Odell and guys like that, but maybe second tier.
Second tier for sure.
Yeah, other than that, these are just puzzle pieces that these guys move around. There's certainly, you wouldn't say they have any blue chippers. They have a very good offensive line this year, which I think has helped.
What about this? Do you think they have the best defense they've had as a Super Bowl team? Because I think they're facing the best offense they've ever faced as a Super Bowl team.
No, I think the 03-04 defenses were really, really, really good. I mean, those are – yeah, we beat Manning, I think, maybe 4 times in 2 seasons, something like that, when that team was a juggernaut offensively. I'm still a little bit nervous about this defense. As I said, I think Roethlisberger maybe missed a couple plays that could have helped. I think Jesse James getting tackled on the 1-inch line definitely helped, but they had a great goal line stand too. But the coaching is so good, and the continuity I think really helps them too. It's just, the Brady, McDaniels, Belichick, and then all the guys they have on the defensive side. When people have been together for a long time, it's just an advantage. Like, I'm sure the TV show, I'm sure Jimmy's show is like that, where you have all these people who've worked together for a long time. You just kind of know what to do and you become a machine. You don't have to think about it. And you think about, like, with the Super Bowl coming up, the Pats have been there so many times. And so for somebody like Brady, it's the 7th Super Bowl. It's like he's not even phased by one thing. Whereas, like, everyone in Atlanta, this is basically the first time they've been there, except for Dwight Freeney and a couple other people. Coach has never been there. QB has never been there. None of their skill guys. Like, nobody. It's when you have that 2 weeks, it definitely is a little overwhelming. And I think that's an advantage for the Pats.
It sounds like we're making a pick. I don't think we are.
No, we're not making a pick. I think this is an advantage. So what do we say for the Lions?
You want to add for that? You want to add to that? You know, Matt Ryan on February 4th, Saturday, will probably be named MVP, right?
Yeah.
That's, two good things could come of that. If he's named MVP, that's extra incentive for the Patriots. Let's beat the best. He's named the best. Let's show him. Let's show him we have the best. If he's not, if it's Tom Brady, then Goodell has to hand him the trophy on the 4th and then maybe the 5th of February. That would be tremendous. But something else, what about the Goodell thing? Don't they want to beat him more than they even want to beat the Falcons? Like, this is crazy how it's all stacked up.
Well, the story, this is the storybook ending. And, you know, I couldn't tell whether CBS toned down the audio, but I know the Where's Roger chants were going for basically from near the end of the third quarter all the way through the fourth. And it's a big thing. I think people, look, the Boston fans, I get it. You know, there's been a lot of success. I get all the reasons the shots are taken, all that stuff. I do think people don't understand how personally you take this if the beloved quarterback on your favorite team just gets wiped away and there's never really been any proof why. That's what. Right. So the chance to have the revenge of Goodell handing Brady the trophy after wiping him out for these first 4 games, I mean, it's really, you know, these are really higher than usual stakes. Like for Brady, the ultimate revenge, he goes down in history. For Belichick, 5 Super Bowls. He passes every coach who ever did that, and they're some of the legends. And, you know, pretty high stakes.
Yeah, it's almost like the Falcons, like Brady and Belichick, like, sorry, Falcons, you're just in our way. Don't take it personally. We just have to we have to settle this other score, this bigger score.
But the stakes for the Falcons are, if let's say they put up 40+ on the Pats, they might go down as the best offense of all time. They win the Super Bowl and they have another thing. Like, you really have to start. We always think, like, they always say the greatest show on turf. There was that one Manning's Broncos season. Like, there's been like great offenses, but for them to do this from beginning to end and put up 600+ points, I think they're over 600 now, right?
Yeah,
they're well over 600. And Julio, I think, goes up another level. There's some good. I think this is a really good Super Bowl, and plus Atlanta's only been there once. And all right, hold on, Sal. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl line, but first, let's talk about MeUndies. Valentine's Day is approaching. It's go time for thoughtful gift hunting. Thankfully, MeUndies has you covered with limited edition matching pairs of undies for you and yours. Oh yeah, it's as adorable as it sounds, with a range of styles and tons of great prints like flamingo, midnight camo, and even heavy petal, an edgy rose pattern that's exclusive for Valentine's Day. There is sure to be something for everyone. Plus, MeUndies are made entirely out of modal, a fabric that's 3 times softer than cotton. They are unbelievably comfortable. I don't know how many times I have to tell you. The top drawer of my dresser is full of MeUndies, and that's it. Once you go MeUndies, you never go back. The world's most comfortable underwear. And if you don't love MeUndies, they'll give you your money back and let you keep the first pair for a limited time. Our listeners get 20% off their first order plus free shipping, but you have to go to MeUndies.com/BS for it. With the MeUndies Better Day guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Don't wait any longer. Go to MeUndies.com/BS right now for 20% off your first order. Do it. Valentine's Day is coming. All right, the Super Bowl line. What did you have for a line?
Well, you went a little high. I had New England -3.5. What did you say?
I said 6.5. I was way off.
I think you had a lot of bravado. You were watching with Patriots fans. You're like, we're the best. we're never, we can't be beat.
No.
Vegas has it at 3, and it stayed at 3. And as we mentioned, 60 is the over-under.
I was off. I really thought the Pats, the pedigree was worth an extra field goal, but I think the Falcons obviously won a shitload of respect these last 2 weeks. I just thought, that the history of this stuff is you have the famous proven team, and then you have the upstart team, and the famous proven team always usually seems to get the extra field goal in the Super Bowl, but not this year.
We get it. We get a little bit of a cheat because we monitor the AFC versus NFC Super Bowl. The last few weeks at least we have, and it was 3. It was 3.5 actually last week. The AFC was favored over the NFC. Now you have to assume that's assuming that both favorites went out. They kind of even lost a half a point, New England, after yesterday. I don't know how that is. Like, if home field advantage gets you 3 points typically, what should 7 Super Bowls get you for a quarterback? Like, that should almost be 5 points, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I think the only hesitation that people had with this Falcons team, which led to like that Seahawks line in round 2. Oh, here come the Seahawks. Oh, the veteran team. And the Falcons are just good, but it seems like nobody totally wanted to believe it. And I really think it's because of Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
I think there was something about Matt Ryan, and I would say partially to mostly justified, that people just kind of wanted to see him do it. And meanwhile, he was really good in that Seattle playoff game 4 years ago.
Right.
Like it's not like he's been Andy Dalton in the playoffs. I think we were comparing him to other teams in the past. That Rams offense was tremendous with Kurt Warner, but I'll be more surprised if this offense is shut down by, remember that? What was the Tampa score? It was a stupid score. It was like 14-12 or something. Would the Rams beat Tampa in the NFC Championship? Yes.
It's really stupid. I'd be even more surprised if this Atlanta team was shut down as much as that Rams team was years ago.
Yeah. I think the difference between that Rams team and this team, other than the fact that football is played completely differently now, and probably if you put the 99 Rams in 2017, I don't even know what the hell would happen. But it just seems like this Falcons team can put up points whether Julio Jones is good or not. Right. And that's like a pretty special quality. Like, he was unbelievable yesterday. I think it was funny in the first half. He had a couple of those crossing routes, and it was like, oh man, he's gonna get one of those. Like, you can feel it. And then the second half, boom, and he's just off. And it's a little like Odell, It's like, he's gone. 70-yard pass, and he beats guys up within the rules, it seems, and throws them around. The next thing you know, he's open and he's tiptoeing down the sideline. He's tremendous. I think he's the scariest receiver the Pats have ever gone against in a Brady Belichick playoff game. I was thinking about that. And they've gone against some really good ones. Owens would have been the best one, but Owens was coming off a broken leg. Nobody knew whether he was even playing or not. But if you just go through all the seasons, like Isaac Bruce, Marvin Harrison, they never went against Randy Moss at his apex. Steve Smith. Tate threw out. Sorry, Tate. I wouldn't put him up there. But Julio is just a monster. And fortunately for the Pats, Eric Rowe didn't have a good game yesterday, but they at least have a couple cornerbacks with size that can make him think. So we have a lot of time to talk about this. We need to take a Don Julio shot of the week, though. You have anything? Let's do it. So next week is when we do one of my favorite podcasts of the year, the Super Bowl Prop Podcast. Yes, excited. The Henry Hinoski Memorial Super Bowl Props Podcast, which we'll do on Monday, you think? Okay. Or do you want to do it? You want to do it on Tuesday or Wednesday? Yeah, we may have to do Tuesday or Wednesday because I don't know if they come out until Tuesday. All right, so we'll do it midweek next week. But we're going to do a Don Julio shot of the week. Don Julio, the world's original handcrafted tequila with multiple unique tequilas, including Don Julio 1942, the best luxury tequila you'll ever drink. We're going college basketball this week. We have Tate here, the host of Teed Up on the Ringer Network. And there's a big Kansas-Kentucky game coming. I'm trying to find and Tate, where's the game, Tate? It's in Rupp Arena. It's in Lexington, Kentucky. Okay, it's in Kentucky. So I'm guessing Kentucky's going to be favored over Kansas. Yeah. All right. Tate likes Kansas.
You like? I think we'd get like 7 points if we took Kansas
All right.
over Kentucky.
So we're going to take Kansas with whatever points we get in that game. And
All right.
if Tate's wrong,
Fired.
you'll see him sitting on the corner of Hollywood Vine with his suitcase. And
If
that'll be
Tate's
it for
wrong,
him.
he has to run our wins pool again next year.
So you
Whatever pool.
Yeah. So you don't have Cousin Sal's sure thing this week on Facebook, but next week you will have the sure thing with a Super Bowl pick and some other stuff, correct?
Yes, and I came back. I'm up 41% money-wise on the year. We you and I both had both favorites and the favorites on a teaser. And there you go. Yeah, next week we're going to have a prize, $5,151 to the winner of the prop challenge for Super Bowl 51. Jimmy Kimmel Live, Jake Bird at the presidential inauguration tonight. You love that.
Oh, my old friend Jake Bird. I love that guy.
It's always a good one. Dennis Quaid and Bill Burr on also. Later in the week, Matthew McConaughey, Martin Short, Lady Antebellum, and Samuel L. Jackson. Yes.
That's fantastic. The Cuz, we will talk to you next week for the big Super Bowl Props podcast. Good job by you.
Good job by you, Billy.
Okay, we're going to talk to my old good friend Wesley Morris. But first, let's talk about my friends at Harry's.com. They sent me some razors over a year ago, and it changed my life. I don't get shaving cuts anymore. I don't get shaving zits on my neck anymore. I have a nice, clean, happy face. Thank you, Harry's. If you're not using their state-of-the-art German-engineered razors, I got to be honest, I feel sorry for you. And if you're not getting Harry's as a Valentine's Day gift for your husband, your boyfriend, your dad, your grandfather, Tate, whoever, I feel even worse for you. Right now, Harry's is offering you a delightful shaving kit for a close, comfortable shave. That includes a weighted ergonomical razor handle, 5 precision-engineered blades with a lubricating strip and a trimmer blade, a rich lathering shave gel and a travel cover. Oh, Harry's is so confident in the quality of their blades. They want you to try their shave set for free. You heard that right. Just cover shipping when you sign up. That's it. Plus, as a special offer of fans of this show, you go to Harry's.com right now, enter code BS at the checkout, and you get a post-shave balm that's also free. Once again, Harry's.com, code BS. All right, here's Wesley Morris. All right, on the line right now, my old Grantland teammate now at the New York Times, my friend Wesley Morris. How are you?
Hi, Bill.
Oscar nominations this week. It's a weird Oscars.
I know.
It's, people are simultaneously kind of bummed out that the movies aren't a little more mainstream, but on the other hand, this is where we are with movies, right? It's either capes and superheroes or it's smaller scale movies and there's no middle anymore. What do you think?
Totally agree. No, I mean, there's no middle. There's no middle. It's Jenna Worthman and I were just talking like minutes ago about just how everything this year we're going to get is probably going to be a sequel or something. And it's not just the movies, it's TV too. For no reason, we're now getting like Training Day and Lethal Weapon as television shows. I feel like it's really sad actually. And I think nobody really wants to acknowledge how bad it is.
Yeah.
Because it means that these Hollywood executives have to account for the total rejiggering of their priorities and the shameless rejiggering of their priorities. So that you get from like January until September, there is almost literally nothing that isn't a sequel, a franchise, something that wants to be either one of those things. And also things that are just coming back to life for no reason. Like Jason Bourne, that had to happen. Who was asking for that? A Ghostbusters remake? Who wanted that?
I was thinking about movies that came out at the end of the last decade. So you take a movie like The Town, Ben Affleck, or Gone Baby Gone.
Mm-hmm.
Gone Baby Gone, I think, still comes out in the same way, and I still think it's probably more of an indie movie. Maybe it's just Casey Affleck and it's nobody else you would ever recognize. But to me, The Town is a great example of a movie that I'm not sure would do as well anymore. And The Town did well.
No, I mean, yeah. Well, let's just like look at 2010 in general. 2010. What else happened in 2010? Inception. Inception might happen now. Inception. The 2016 Inception was, I guess, Arrival, which should tell you where things are actually at.
Right. Yeah.
Toy Story 3. The Social Network we got in 2010.
Well, so
Black Swan happened.
right,
Shutter Island.
So Black Swan is now like Jackie,
Yeah.
But like Social Network, even that one, Social Network, Moneyball, those type of movies, maybe they happened. Is a studio that patient with a movie like Moneyball 5 years later that took forever to get made? I think they just scrap it at this point. They don't want to deal with it. They look at it and they go, it's too big of a risk.
127 hours.
Yeah.
But to be fair to somebody, I guess this was a thing that was already underway even in 2010. I mean, in 2010, you also get I think that's the year The Fighter happened. The Kids Are All Right also happened. Easy A.
Yeah, it has that also Up in the Air. You had Inglourious Bastards. You had The Blind Side. 2010 was a good movie year. Precious. There's a lot of big ones, but I think the difference 2010 and now, people saw some of those movies and they watched the Oscars and they had opinions on them. And now you're looking at the major movies that are going to be in the Oscars. And I can't remember an Oscars where the average person might not have seen any of the 5 movies that got nominated. It's kind of unprecedented.
I also think that it does this weird thing where there's this expectation now, at least according to the people who write about our entertainment, where if Moonlight only makes 15 or 16 or 17 million dollars, it's kind of considered a stalled movie.
Yeah.
It's let's think about what Moonlight actually is for 1 second. It is a movie about one person told in 3 chapters, played by 3 different actors, directed by a black man, that has no stakes, no car crashes, it's just human drama. It has made $15 million as I'm sitting here talking to you, or maybe 16 at this point.
Yeah.
The idea that movie needs to make more money from an extremely independent studio, by the way, that the idea that movie is somehow past its prime or a failure or something because it only made that much on virtually no money to make in the first place is insane to me. But they're still using these even 2010 ideas of what a financial success for a quote unquote Oscar movie.
Well, wouldn't you say though that it's almost like the goals of a movie like Moonlight are different now? You're not even talking about what that final box office figure is, but just the process of people eventually seeing it, whether it's in the theater, on demand, on HBO, on a streaming service, wherever. I think anybody who likes movies will eventually see Moonlight. I just don't think the process is I got to get to the theater in the next 3 weeks to see it. I saw it by accident. My wife and I needed a date, and we wanted to go on an old school date and have a dinner and go to a movie. Otherwise, we would have just waited till we either got a screener or we got on demand. But that's the way it works now. I don't know.
Right, and I have to say, it's a catchy thing. It took me. I've spent a lot of my time basically at this point being a civilian moviegoer. I get invited to things still, but a lot of the time I just go on opening weekend or at some point I'll see it. This was a year for me that was really interesting in terms of what people have chosen to pay attention to. Martin Scorsese releases, I think, it's not a great movie, Silence, but it is good by one of the world's great filmmakers. Yeah. Nobody's really seeing it. Or at least, again, this is the entertainment writers reporting that it's sort of been underseen and considered a flop. But, relative to cost, it is not making the money it cost to make.
Right.
Pedro Almodovar made, I think, a beautiful movie called Julieta. It's kind of doing okay, but this is one of the world's greatest filmmakers making a movie that nobody is seeing that, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, everybody, many, many more people would have been going to see. There's another. I can't remember the other person I was thinking about. I think Sully is the other thing. Sully people saw. That was a hit.
Sully people saw, but it's not getting nominated.
And it's also a perfectly good Oscar movie. But for whatever reason, they have rejected that. And I don't know if it's a political thing. But I actually don't know. And this idea now that something like Deadpool has become part of the best picture conversation is just really telling to me. I would
call it alarming. What the fuck? Deadpool's gonna get nominated for an Oscar? What the hell's going on? I thought there might be a little.
No, I mean,
I thought there might be a Hidden Figures groundswell a little bit because of the moment, and it's a good movie
There
and people
could
like
be.
it, and a lot of people saw it. And I think if it gets nominated, it could get a little momentum. Like you can't rule it out. I never thought Sandra Bullock was going to
first
win
of
an
all,
Oscar.
Yeah, I know, and you're correct. I actually think it's really interesting that, I mean, the movie is a huge hit, both based on how much it cost to make and just like looking at what the money is. Hidden Figures is a huge hit, and it's just the word of mouth is really strong on it, and it's going to keep making money the way it is for probably another 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Yep.
I don't know whether the Academy will like it enough to get it a Best Picture nomination. I'm guessing maybe, but think about what it would mean for a movie like Deadpool to be a Best Picture nominee and not Hidden Figures, and what that says about what these people's priorities are, and just who's in the Academy to put things in order to become a Best Picture nominee. As we've talked about before, the way the voting is set up, you have enough people have to have made Deadpool their top movie of last year to get a Best Picture nomination. It has to be like, I don't know, I think it's 5% of all voters have to say it's number one.
That's not happening.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's not happening.
I can't imagine it happening either when you really think about what it takes for it to happen.
And by the
But-
way, if there's 5% of those people think Arrival was the best movie they saw in 2016, you lose your vote. Just take it away. That's outrageous. I texted this to you. I'm going to
love
say it
you.
now on
It's
my
so true.
podcast. I like Amy Adams. I think she's good. I think she's Alex Smith. I think you can go 10-6 with her. I'm not winning the Super Bowl
Yeah.
with Amy Adams or Alex Smith. I'm sorry.
But you know what the thing is, though? She can get you to the Super Bowl.
She can get.
She can get to.
I think she get you
she
the
can get
AFC
to Super Bowl.
Championship game.
No, listen. I just don't think she's had a Super Bowl role. I think here are my top three.
Okay.
Amy Adams.
Yeah.
Enchanted,
Yeah.
The Fighter,
Okay.
and American Hustle. Those are my top three Amy Adams.
Okay.
Also, The Muppet Movie. If nobody's seen her in The Muppet Movie, she's fantastic. That's my number 4.
Great.
I think
She
I
gets you
think
to the playoffs.
She needs. Well, I think the problem with Amy Adams, especially in this movie, and especially with Nocturnal Animals, which I think is the worst movie I saw last year.
It's pretty
Could
awful.
also get a Best Picture nomination, by the way.
It's awful, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I
Oh my
I
God,
couldn't
Bill.
believe. No, I enjoyed it because the whole time I was like, why did they do this? Why did they make this?
Why
does
did they
Jake
do this?
Why does Jake Gyllenhaal? He just plays 3 different types of roles and just alternates. He either plays like the kind of slightly brain damaged guy, he plays the wimp, or he plays like the charismatic, bravado guy. And he just he looks at these scripts and just goes into one of those 3 corners.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what the appeal of this part was. I think that Tom Ford has tricked all of Hollywood into believing that he's a talented director. He is a total hack. He's a total Almodovar Hitchcock ripoff.
Yeah.
Nothing original happens in his movies. And he basically makes 2-hour and 5-minute cologne commercials that don't smell very good.
I agree
It's
with
like
I
they're
agree with everything you
covering
just
up some
said.
pre-existing smell.
But they're very pretty to watch. It's a very pretty movie. It keeps you. The colors are nice. It does.
If
Like-
you want to fall for that, if you want to fall for a catalog movie, that's fine. Sue yourself.
Listen,
I want a movie.
I never really lost attention. Now, granted, I watched this movie on a screener as I played poker on my iPad, so maybe I'm not the best audience for it. But yeah, the Jake Gyllenhaal's IMDb choices at some point need to be studied just really carefully by all of humanity
Just to go back
wonder what's
Amy,
happening.
Let's go back to Amy Adams for 1 second. Like, what is this? What is Nocturnal Animals asking her to do? It is asking her to
Nothing. She's bad at
perform reading by taking off and putting on a pair of extra large glasses.
Yeah.
So that people in the audience can know she is actually reading this manuscript.
Right.
It is a movie made about smart people by a stupid person.
Well,
It just doesn't make any sense.
and it's another one where when people are like, there aren't enough good roles for black actors and actresses. It's like, that's a role that any person could have played because you don't have to do anything. You could have had Serena Williams play that role. Serena, just pretend you're reading something here. Just say that could have been the gimmick of the movie. And Serena Williams in her most dramatic performance ever. How much weight guilt are we going to get with these Oscar votes this year, in your opinion?
I don't know. It's a great question. I mean, I don't think they really believe in the guilt. This is the problem, right?
Okay.
This is how a movie like Crash can be Best Picture, because they don't think that's a guilty choice. They think that a movie like Crash is really speaking to what it's like to live in Los Angeles as a white person.
Yeah.
On behalf of people of color, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that the whole, and you and I have talked about this before, but I actually think the most important shot in any American movie, I think maybe ever, is the hug that Sandra Bullock gives that housekeeper at the end of Crash. I think that it tells you everything you need to know about that town, this country in some weird way, and what those people in the Academy think is representative of their values and their views. Like, you can just hug your housekeeper and all things will just be, it'll be okay. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think that to me is part of the problem. But I also don't think that it's the guilt that they might feel from last year, to the extent that they feel any at all. I don't think it's really going to manifest in any way beyond something from Moonlight and Viola Davis winning Best Supporting Actress. But those are things that would happen anyway, like with or without white guilt. You know, I just feel like Viola Davis, because they dropped her down to Supporting Actress, she should be in the Best Actress category. That's just like, you'll have a perfect metaphor for this, but it really is kind of like, I don't know, Serena Williams and going and playing on the ITF for a couple of weeks. It's like, of course she's going to win all the titles. She's Viola Davis. She's gonna clean up in Best Supporting Actress because she's giving a lead performance that has more screen time than any of the other people that will be nominated with her.
Listen,
but you're in on Michelle Williams.
No, I'm glad Viola Davis is going to win the Oscar because she's a great actress, but she's not a supporting actress in that movie. And you know, the bottom line is nobody cares, and we can make up whatever rules we want. Like the OJ thing, Ezra. That was phenomenal. It was developed for TV. It was always supposed to be a TV thing, and now it's a movie because they released it in a theater for a week. They just make up their own rules with this stuff. Wait.
I want to go back to this OJ thing because we disagree on this.
Okay.
I think that it might have been conceived for television by somebody, but my experience with it was as a movie. And I think many other people, the majority of people who've seen OJ have seen it on television. It's true. But I think the reason that it's been playing in movie theaters all year, or since it came out in the summer, is because it actually does work as a movie. It is primarily, for me at least, a movie. And I think that a lot of rep houses across the country have played this like one night a week.
Yeah.
And they've been doing that pretty much all year, and they haven't broken it up into parts. They played the whole thing, and I think that that is sort of what's incredible about this as a sort of like achievement in terms of structure, is that you can break it up into parts, but it also just works if you sit there for 7.5 hours or however long it is.
I
don't know.
I don't really care. I don't really care what category it's in. I would care if I was one of the other nominees, you know, and I would care if I'm Michelle Williams and I have like 4 scenes in that movie, and 2 of those scenes are like 2 of the best scenes anyone's had this year, and are 2 of the most emotionally wrenching scenes that we've had in the last 5 years. And then you see Viola Davis in Fences, and she's a lead actress, and she's equally in that movie with Denzel. I don't know what the minute breakdown is, but I know she's not a Best Supporting Actress, but they put her in that category. Ultimately, who gives a shit? I would care if I was nominated. And I would care if I'm in the documentary category and I'm going against Ezra's OJ movie, that would be what I grasped onto. Like, that's 7.5 hours. That was developed by ESPN. What the hell? The point is, it doesn't seem like there's anybody moderating this stuff, and people can do whatever they want. Like, Denzel could have put himself in the Best Supporting Actor. He could have, right?
Oh, but do you think he would have?
What? Who would have?
To your point, yeah.
I just said nobody's monitoring it. You can do whatever you want. Like Anthony Hopkins won an Oscar. He was in Silence of the Lambs for 16 minutes, and he won Best Actor.
Right.
So at that
Well,
point, it's
I
like,
mean-
who the fuck knows?
Yeah, but I think, I mean, a lot of this for me, and I guess as a person who's just been like really, I don't know, environmentally trained to pay attention to this stuff, I actually think it comes down to what you believe. I mean, if I'm a voter, what do I believe this person's value is to this movie, either in terms of what the plot has them doing or in terms of their overall effect on my either memory of or enjoyment of that movie. And I actually think, I mean, Hopkins is a great example of
Impact.
what happens when, right. He should have just won. For Best Actor.
And I think Viola Davis could have won for Best Actress. That's the
I
thing.
agree.
Why didn't she just put her in
could have
that
won Best
category?
Actress. Yep, she totally would have won. I think that the people who demoted her just thought it would be a lock, and I think that I don't want to think for Viola Davis, but I do think that there was a little bit of whiplash on behalf of, if not her, then people around her, where Meryl Streep won for The Iron Lady and she lost for The Help. I think the assumption was that she was going to win, and she didn't. And I just think that there's somebody out there looking out for her who doesn't want her to go through that again, to like be nominated for Best Actress, be the front runner, and have Emma Stone win Best Actress. I just think that this is
don't
a
get me
safe
started
bet.
on Emma Stone, Best Actress.
Right.
Don't get me started on that.
I mean,
one. How about this?
should
You're in
we
a
get
musical.
started on it?
No, if you're in a musical, have a voice that's above average. If it's a big budget musical, just have an above average voice. You just have to.
Yeah.
And I think Anne Hathaway. I think Anne Hathaway is probably has to be medicated every day that she didn't get that part. It's just got to drive her crazy.
Audition for it?
No, it's just she had to have seen La La Land and been like, "Oh my god, that would have been the part of my life, and I hate everything, and give me some pills." Just taking pills to forget my pain.
I actually think that she. I mean, first of all, I think Anne Hathaway is fine. I think second, I depends on how you're watching this movie, right? I think I accept the convention. I think I accept the average person doing X thing convention. I accept the idea that Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling aren't supposed to be. Nobody who sings in this movie is supposed to be good at singing, right? I think that is part of what's supposed to be charming about it. I think that what is unfortunate about Emma Stone is she really doesn't sound that great from song to song. But I also think that she sort of is disturbed by all of the attention the movie is getting, and the idea that she's going to win an Oscar for it is a little distasteful for some people, given how little there is for her to do as an actor, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, she obviously, as the person who gave the performance, can dispute that read. But I think she's really wonderful in the movie. I think the only person of the five women likely to be nominated on Tuesday is the only clear winner, the only person who is inarguably great is Isabelle Huppert. Which you should see that movie, by the way, if you haven't already.
That was one of the only ones I didn't see. I really liked Haley Stanfield in Edge of 17, who's not going to get nominated. But
you told me about that.
I really
and
liked
I watched
her.
that movie, and I was shocked. That is a good movie.
It's a good movie, and she's great in it. And I think she's going to be a really good actress. I think Keanu Reeves has to watch all of this very carefully, because when John Wick 2 gets all the nominations next February, I think he should nominate himself as Best Supporting Actor. I think he would have a better chance. Even though he's in every scene of John Wick, why not? You'd have a better chance of Best Supporting. Here's the other thing with putting yourselves in categories. Why isn't OJ, if OJ is going to be a movie, why not just be in the movie category? Isn't that a better and more memorable movie than any movie we had in 2016? Just go for the fucking home run.
Listen, I think, well, this should tell you a lot about how this process works, right? I mean, I am with you. I think it is the best movie I saw last year.
Me too. If it's a movie, it was the best movie I saw last year.
I think there's an obvious. I heard that. I think that if you're, I mean, there's any number of ways to answer. I think the one way is just the way things work now. Nobody campaigned for it as a Best Picture nominee, or nobody made a credible enough or strong enough campaign for it as a Best Picture nominee. The thinking with these animated films and documentaries is that there's a category for you, and it's very hard to get out of your Oscar category ghetto.
Yeah.
So the idea of OJ being a legitimate Best Picture nominee isn't the fault of ESPN, and it's not, the movie's fault. It's the limited thinking around the way the Academy thinks of a Best Picture nominee and a Best Picture winner. The same is true for pick the animated movie you've loved most in the last, 20 years.
Do you want to hear the Simmons kids for this year?
Wait, which movie?
No, just the movies they love this year.
Oh, yeah. Like, what?
Moana was second. Sing was third. And what was the other movie that came out like 6-7 months ago?
Zootopia.
No, that wasn't. There was
That
another.
wasn't it?
No, maybe Moana was one.
Finding Dory?
It's the glory time for animated movies. Like that's kind of the irony of 2016 is that those middle ground movies are disappearing, but kids movies are more fantastic than they've ever been. And Sing is.
And they're also adult movies. If you've seen Zootopia,
Right.
you know that like the middle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a great point actually. Zootopia is as much an adult movie as it is something for kids.
They
Same thing with
mastered
Finding
them.
Dory.
Well, just like the concept of, hey, somebody was in a room and said, hey, what if the animals sang and there was a contest? It's like Pitch Perfect with the animals. And somebody else was like, done, get the animators going. It's like, that's a home run. And that's how they're thinking all the time. And my kids saw the first preview of that. They were like, we're going. When's that coming out? Animals are singing. I'm in. That's all they needed. Kids are easy.
Yeah.
And we've mastered how to make kids movies. I think OJ was, it's the best thing I saw in 2016. I don't know how that gets properly commemorated, but at the very least, the best documentary Oscar seems like a fair way to do it. I don't know. Does this mean it's not eligible for the Emmys? It's not, right?
No, it's eligible for the Emmys too.
See, that's
It was on TV.
now I'm confused. Now I'm confused.
No. I mean, this is all about positioning, and I think they can position it as both. I mean, there are several movies that have either won both the Oscar and the Emmy, or have been nominated for both, and
Like
won
what?
one or won the other.
Which one?
You would ask, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't ever remember it.
Can I wait? Hold on. Let me think about this.
Tate's
but
gonna
there's
Google
gotta
as
be
we talk.
Okay.
Wait,
So anyway, go on. I would say also, I think if you're if you're in the director's branch of the Academy and you've seen the OJ movie, I don't know. I feel like that is also one of the best directed movies I have seen all year. It's also one of the best edited movies, obviously, I've seen all year.
Well, I know one thing that's happened with the Directors Guild that I haven't heard anyone talk about, that I know because a little birdie told me. After what happened last year, the Directors Guild has, I think they beefed up the guild from a diversity standpoint, which they should have done years ago, obviously. But I have a feeling there's a more diverse group of people maybe in all of these places voting, would be my guess. The Academy, the Directors Guild, the Writers Guild, whatever. And for something like the OJ, that's good for if the Directors Guild is voting on that. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah,
Not just old
it's
white
great.
guys.
Yeah, but there's. I mean, it's still going to be mostly. It's still going to be mostly that.
Yeah. Quick break to talk about our friends at ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? Well, posting your job in one place isn't enough anymore. For the perfect hire, you need to post your job on all the top job sites, and now you can. With ZipRecruiter.com, post your job to 100 plus job sites, including social media networks like Facebook and Twitter, and you can do it all with a single click. Find candidates in any city or industry. Just post once and watch your qualified candidates roll in to ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Quickly screen candidates, rate them, and hire the right person fast. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 1 million businesses. Man, the Ringer might have to use it to find our West Coast social media head. We still need one. In the meantime, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Once again, ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Back to Wesley Morris. What subplot are you the most excited about heading into this Oscars? Because right now it doesn't feel like there's a signature subplot, which is weird.
Well, I mean, obviously Trump is going to somehow be a subplot.
So that's going to happen. What if he tweets during the Oscars?
He's going to tweet during the Oscars, and Jimmy's going to be on the case. Jimmy Kimmel is going to be on the case.
He is ready for that moment.
I also think that he might be the perfect host for this year's show. And I'm not saying this because you guys are friends. I actually think, I disclaimed my enthusiasm for his Emmy hosting, because I think that was some of the best award show hosting I've ever seen. He worked the whole time. He was funny the whole time. The writing was there for him. And he's good at thinking on his feet.
Yeah.
And he felt very comfortable in that room.
Yeah. And he's comfortable with celebrities. I think we've seen people who host the Oscars, either they perform and then they go the Billy Crystal route, or they just try to be a stand-up comic. And they have they work on stuff ahead of time, and they don't really audible. And I think like Carson was the best ever at it. And Carson kind of read the mood as the night went along and ebbed and flowed with it. And I think that's what Jimmy has a chance to do. It's a really, it's a big stage for him, but he's had a lot of reps, and I think he's ready for it. And, I think he's going to celebrate it and be funny, but at the same time, as stuff happens during the night, he'll be ready. And it's a long night, and it's boring for huge chunks. And you need somebody can kind of have a feel for what the audience is going through, not just in the room, but on TV. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think Trump is, as crazy as it sounds, probably the lingering subplot. And I don't know what movie we'll remember the most in 5 years from now, but I think for me personally, having seen all of them except for I think 2, the scene with Casey Affleck and Michelle Williams is the one that's going to stick with me, I think. Out of everything.
Interesting. I think the phone call in the third part of Moonlight, when the phone rings and Trevante Rhodes, who plays the last Sharon, when his jaw drops, that is some of the best directed non-acting acting that I've ever seen.
I agree. And I think that was the best.
Any question, by the way?
I think that was the best movie that I saw this year, if OJ doesn't count.
Yeah. I mean, it counts. It's just not going to be an Oscar nominee
right.
in that category.
Right.
Scared Straight, double Oscar winner, double Emmy Oscar winner, 79.
Oh, Scared Straight.
Other nominees. Yeah, Scared Straight, of course. Who could forget? If nobody's seen Scared Straight, by the way, you should totally watch this movie.
It's now a comedy.
Bill, no, it actually still works.
Really?
Yeah, it still works. It's scary.
Yeah. It's probably on YouTube.
It still works. It's still a little bit racist too, but it actually it's effective. 5 Broken Cameras, Paradise Lost 3, Purgatory, both nominees.
Paradise Lost.
Nominees in both categories.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Loving Story. They didn't. No, never mind. Let's just stick with Paradise Lost and.
That's a good. Yeah, that's a good role model. All right. Quickly, because you have to go. Oh, by the way, we should mention your podcast. Still processing with Jenna Wortham. One of the best people.
Still processing with Jenna Wortham.
I made an appearance a month ago.
Jenna is one of the best people. You were correct.
Yeah. So the March, did you go?
I did not go. I can't go. I'm not allowed as a New York Times employee. I did watch a lot and receive texts, and I was on Twitter and looked at all the pictures, and I would like to have been there, but I also am not really into that many people being around.
Yeah.
But I support. Obviously, I can't. The amazing thing about the marches to me, as an American, is that this is the sort of thing that happens in other people's countries all the time, or not not infrequently. And the idea that now we live in a country like many South American countries where people protest all the time. We're protesting as a way of life. We could finally be on the verge of becoming one of those countries as a result of this election. And to see as many people in as many cities turn out the way they did was just. It was amazing. It was moving, and also to have it aimed at a specific problem, which is the incoming administration is maybe the most major response to what happened in November. And I don't know where we go after this. I mean, I think that the importance of doing that march in all the cities around the world where it happened is that march is speaking his language, right? It's speaking a language he refuses to acknowledge is his language, right? Which is, the number of people in a crowd. But I think that he understands what those people coming out for him means. He could misinterpret it as being a kind of support, or like, I'm someone who warrants this kind of outrage. But, when you've got Madonna singing that song, or like, giving that speech that she gave about him, and then just being like, fuck you on behalf of all of us. I mean, this is it's going to be an interesting and scary and I would say unprecedented 4 years.
It's certainly been
What do
an
you
interesting.
think?
It's been an interesting first week. I was fascinated by, my daughter's 11 and a half now, and she went with my wife, and just
Do they stay in LA or do they go to DC?
no, they went to the LA one. Although we did know some people who went to DC before it became clear that there was an LA thing. Some people had made arrangements that we know to go to DC, but watching the impact on that generation, and I think the kids from maybe the kids old enough to understand, I would say would be 7 years old. Maybe they don't understand, the issues, but they understand something and they want to be a part of it. That 7 all the way through, I would say like 10th grade, 11th grade, that part's fascinating to me because I think the previous generation, just stuff wasn't on their radar at all, and you think like my 11.5-year-old daughter, who's not exactly online reading stuff and knowing what's going on, who actually now is starting to think about things, I think that to me is the hidden cool thing about stuff like what happened last weekend, is to get people just thinking, and whatever the conclusion they want to come to that conclusion, but at least just to get thinking. And when you have kids who are like, especially now, they're in their own little bubbles and they have their friends and they're on Instagram and they're on Musical.ly and all these devices, these social things. And it's like, this is way more important than that. And I was psyched that they actually were thinking about it, if that makes sense.
I also think it's really important that it was women who did this, that it's women standing up to this person.
Yeah.
I think that energy means so much more politically than it would be if it was just a bunch of people. I think that that because these protests were driven by women, that's another thing I think that people paying attention to this are likely to hear. I also think it's really important in the sense that, I don't know, there's a Hillary component to this that I haven't really processed, but I think it's not absolution, but it really is. I think there's something aimed at that 53% of women who voted for him.
Yeah.
And this idea that like women didn't show up for Hillary and all of this stuff. And I reject that. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. I'm not here to dispute those. I'm not Sean Spicer. But I do think that there's another energy. And I think that, she did win the popular vote, not insignificantly. And I am curious to see what kind of energy this creates around women in American politics, and where that energy goes. Because, I mean, what we're talking really about now is energy. It's like you create the will to stand up to this administration, whatever it is it's going to do. Is it going to roll back women's reproductive rights? Is it going to help further destroy the environment? What's it going to do for immigrants and immigration? What's it going to do for any number of civil liberties scenarios? Voting rights. I mean, there's just so many things. I mean, healthcare is, pick a thing. It is on the slab, perhaps doomed. And I think that it's going to require kind of vigilance. I'm actually really curious to see what happens to art. Is really the other thing. I think that there's all of this. I'd like to see, like, imagine if Mad Max came out now. If Mad Max Fury Road came out like in July, as opposed to like 2 Julys ago.
Yeah. Well, and music too is
mean,
another thing where you think you had this whole great era of rock music from 68 through 75 basically, and a lot of it was about the discord that was going on in this country and around the world because of all the things that were happening, and it produced some of the best music we've ever had. And I'll be interested to see how that kind of unfolds in 2017 and 2018 and beyond. And maybe it won't. Maybe it won't do anything. Too. Maybe we don't have the people. From a movie standpoint, from a movies TV standpoint, I think it'll be like about 6-9 more months, and then we'll start to see. Fantasy and I were talking about whether you remember there was that weird stretch of movies in the mid 70s where it was like a lot of 3 Days of the Condor type of movies. It was a lot of it about the government is evil.
Parallax View.
Capricorn 1. There were all these different movies that came out during that stretch, and you could kind of feel what was going on from the Nixon White House and then after, and even all the way through like Silkwood. But it was like this 8-year run of just, you could feel whatever was going on in the country seeping into these movies. And then you had all the Vietnam movies like Deer Hunter, Apocalypse Now. I'll be interested to see if that happens with movies and how that seeps in. And is there going to be a paranoia? Is the paranoid thriller going to come back? Costner, this might be great for him. Costner might have No Way Out 2 might be in the script development. But who the hell knows?
It goes right back to what you were talking about, Bill. There is now no movie making apparatus to handle what is going on in this administration. You know what I mean? There's no middle, which is where all those movies in the 70s were.
It's true.
There was a middle. There was a large middle to handle being able to handle Nixon era paranoia, to handle the war, to handle any number of isms and ism movements. You know, the idea that a network could happen in 2016, it's inconceivable to me. You know, but network is now on TV, basically.
This is the last thing.
That's how it works.
I'm leaving you with this, and then we have to go. I took my son to see The Bye-Bye Man on Saturday because I'm a terrible father, and he loves horror movies.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. It's PG-13. I thought it was defensible. He just loves horror movies. What am I going to do? Faye Dunaway is in it. I'm going to leave you with that. Faye Dunaway. There's a scene with...
It's not happening in 2016.
They have to go see an old lady in a house who knows stuff about what's going on in the movie, and it's Faye Dunaway.
Yeah. I'll say.
So there you go. You just never know how your career is going to play out down the line. Faye Dunaway, top of the world, mid-70s, now making a 2-scene cameo in The Bye-Bye Man. Wesley Morris, we can read you in the New York Times. We can listen to your podcast, Still Processing. And I'm excited to see what you say about these Oscar nominations. I'm sure something will make us mad, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about them after they happen tomorrow.
All right.
Or Tuesday.
All right. Sad everyone in New York. Thank you.
Okay. See ya.
All right. That's it for the podcast. We are coming back on Wednesday. But before then, thanks to the Ringer NBA Show, one of the best NBA podcasts out there. We have Chris Vernon, Kevin O'Connor, Chris Ryan, Shea Serrano, and others breaking down hoops every single week. This week, Kevin O'Connor interviewed Celtic star Isaiah Thomas, who is going to make the All-Star team because he deserves it. Check that podcast out. And we also have the Shack House Golf Podcast returning later this month with hosts Joe House and Jeff Shackelford, presented by Callaway. Shack House. Thanks to SeatGeek. Don't forget to download the SeatGeek app. Thanks to Roast Battle. It launches on January 26th on Comedy Central. Thanks to Harry's. Go to harrys.com. Code BS for a special offer. Thanks to MeUndies. Go to MeUndies.com/BS for a special offer. We're back midweek with the one and only Bill Burr. Until then.